About a year ago, I took on what was probably the biggest decision I've ever made in my personal life. What up, puppy guy? You wanna come back up here with me? I finally achieved a goal that I had been striving for the past few years, actually, which was finally making the decision that I was going to live in my Jeep and try to do a 50-state road trip. And when I started the trip, I had a completely different mindset that I did now. And I just wanted to try to kind of make this video and just talk about my experiences of just everything that's happened this past year and just what I've learned since then that I would have probably never learned if I hadn't taken this opportunity. Kai, why are you breathing so loud? So, say hi, Kai. So if you hear panting, it's not me, it's him. Very panty puppy. If you guys have been following this journey for a while or been a consistent subscriber to the channel, you might have noticed that I haven't really been uploading a lot lately. The reason for that is mostly just because I really needed to just take a break from YouTube in general. I burnt out on YouTube, if that's the right word. I had been doing YouTube full-time this whole past year when I was living in my Jeep. It didn't necessarily mean I was making a video every day, but I was definitely thinking about YouTube all the time, and basically my whole life revolved around this YouTube channel and trying to make a career out of it. A couple months ago, it was the 1-year anniversary of me starting this road trip and living in the Jeep, and we were planning a trip on going to Florida, and my plan was to go on this family vacation, and after that I had the Jeep already packed up with everything I needed to bring, and I was going to live in my Jeep, and I was going to do DoorDash and do whatever I needed to make money, and I was going to travel the East Coast for a few months, just do that, and then I was going to try a new setup, try to experiment with some things, and then after that I was going to come back home and either improve upon that setup or possibly work out another setup, and from there just see what happened. Probably spend the Christmas, probably spend the holidays with my family, and then I was going to continue the road trip. This plan didn't really work out as I initially planned, because when we went to Florida, Bonita just was making weird noises, and I was very on edge about whether or not I should stay in Florida and go with my original plan, going back to living in the Jeep and traveling, or if I should go back to my house and make sure that everything's okay on her. I spent all my money on the gas to get to Florida, and I didn't even have enough money to get back home, and I wasn't really sure how I was going to... I hadn't been making money ever since I made it to home, because my sole source of income had become DoorDash, because I wasn't making any money on the channel aside from a little bit that I was getting from Patreon supporters. I woke up early the day before my family was gonna head back. I went to a Starbucks and I was gonna edit videos, but I mostly just sat there and thought for a long time whether or not I should risk staying in Florida with the possibility that I might break down and not have any money to get my Jeep fixed, or if I should just go back home with my family and get the Jeep fixed and know that I was safe. I decided that the best decision I could make, the smartest decision I could make, would be to go back home with my family. That way I'd have all the tools I needed to just check over Bonita, since I hadn't really done a good rundown of her, even though it had been a year. I should have checked her sooner. And when I got back home, the next day I rolled up under my Jeep. I started messing with stuff, and I found out that her transfer case was literally unbolting from the transmission. I'm so glad that I didn't discover that while I was in Florida. Being at home with all the lifts and jacks and all the tools I have there, and you know, just having a driveway where I can drop stuff without having to deal with anybody, it was super easy for me to fix her and to get her back on the road. But if I had been in Florida, the situation would have been completely different. I wouldn't have had the time, the money, the supplies, the equipment. It would have just been a completely different story. Thankfully, I was able to get the transmission fixed, but after fixing that, it was just one thing after another. No shocker there. I kept looking at other things that might be wrong with her and found out I had a bad U-joint. I had a yoke that had stretched. I had been driving with so many problems on Bonita, and I just had learned to live with it, and quite literally, she's been a death trap for probably this whole year. There was a time I was driving her on the highway for hours with hardly any brakes, and I just didn't even realize it because I would downshift all the time. Her brakes even now are super loose, and I actually need to get them bled, but I just haven't bothered because I'm so used to just dealing with all her problems. The vibration was just so common to me that from all the stuff I was lugging around that I didn't even really realize how bad it was until I was in Florida. And then I was talking to some people and they told me that the vibration isn't normal. Like, I always thought this vibration was normal, but it turns out I think my pinion angle had been wrong this whole time. I still have a minor vibration. It might have to do with tires, but I'm gonna get it checked out. But Bonita just needed a lot of work, and I didn't have the money to spend on her. My mindset changed from feeling like I had an obligation to this channel to show up and make videos no matter what, that I needed to continue making videos, and not just any videos. I needed to continue living in the Jeep and doing vlogs, traveling, to realizing that I really needed to take a break, and my mindset I needed to rethink this road trip and this channel in general. I started watching other videos and listening to podcasts, and a lot of very successful channels had felt the same way as I did, and it was really encouraging to see that this isn't just something uncommon. This has actually been something that I think everybody who's ever done YouTube before experienced. But I wanted to make a video about my 1 year life experience, and that was going to initially be a combination of this video I'm making now and the video I uploaded not that long ago. That was just a montage of everything that I had recorded throughout the past year. And while I was working on that montage, I just noticed my own personality throughout those videos slowly change, my enthusiasm in the work I had put in those videos. And I was the behind the scenes on all of those. I remember editing those videos. I remember being in that moment because I was the person in those videos, and just seeing myself and my personality just slowly break down over the past year was really discouraging for me to see, because I was able to actually see myself slowly lose interest as it went on. When I started this road trip, I was so enthusiastic. I was so excited to finally be living the dream that I had been planning for years, to finally be a full-time vlogger, living in a Jeep with my dog and traveling, and all of that just kind of fell apart. When I started this road trip, I expected that I would be able to make enough money to sustain a living in my Jeep just by the YouTube channel. It's no secret that a large inspiration to me was Jake, and when I made the video that I'm most famous for on here about what happened to Jake, he actually saw that video and he became one of my Patreon supporters, and that was a huge deal for me. And to this day, still, it was like an incredible thing. Just knowing that he saw the video and that he wanted to support me was the coolest thing I could have ever asked for. Since I had been following Jake pretty much since before he even started his 50-state road trip, I was able to see how much support he received from people and how he was able to live his journey just from the support of other people. And that really inspired me to realize that I would be able to do the same. years ago, before I even bought Bonita, what really got me into this whole idea in the first place, my manager had a black Jeep JK. He let me drive it home one time, and I just fell in love with Jeeps. After that, I just knew I needed to have a Jeep. I did a lot of homework. I knew exactly what Jeep I wanted. I wanted a white 4-door Jeep JK Sahara with a tan leather interior. And I was always doing research on Jeeps. I was just studying them down, totally invested in anything and everything about a Jeep. And I saw this picture. It was a Jeep with a rooftop tent on it, but it was like the rooftop tent was built into the hardtop. So it was a hardtop that would pop up. And I remember seeing that, and I was like, I could get one of those, and I could like have a camper inside of a Jeep. It was so cool to me to see an adventure, small SUV vehicle. And as somebody who loved camping and loved the outdoors, that was like amazing to me. I even remember joking about the idea of living in a Jeep with that tent in it. And I remember people making fun of me, telling me not only could I not afford that Jeep, I definitely couldn't afford the top, and there was no way that I would live in a Jeep. A few months later, I finally bought Bonita, this Jeep here. And that's when I discovered Jake in his channel, and he changed my whole perspective on all of this and made me realize that this could be more than a dream. This could be a way of life. This could actually be a reality. When I started this channel, I said that money was never the goal for this channel. The whole road trip in general, the goal was not to make money. The goal was to live in a Jeep and vlog my experiences. When my expenses ran out, I had to try to find a way to still sustain a living and sustain being on the road. I still needed to eat. I still needed to buy gas. I still needed to at least have some kind of money put on the side in case something happened to me or Kai or Bonita. It was simply just impractical to assume that you could survive without some form of income. I had been saving money for my Patreon supporters in case I ever needed it for an emergency, and I used all that money that I had saved from Patreon supporters for the past few months to get me to Midland. And I thought I would be able to get a job there, and that kind of just fell through the roof too, because I wasn't able to snag a job. My uncle was able to help me. He gave me a gas card to pay for some gas, and that was honestly, that saved me so much. He also was able to work out a deal with someone to let me live in an RV, and even though it was so helpful to receive all that stuff, when I was living in the RV, my depression came back. And I started feeling really claustrophobic. Even though I went from living in such a small space to literally having a whole RV to myself, a gooseneck RV, a huge RV, I felt so trapped being there, and it really started to weigh on me. And it got to the point that I started making very unhealthy decisions, and I just could not stand being there. I ended up spending probably most of my days just sitting in the RV, being depressed or just laying around doing nothing. I had to get back on my own 2 feet. I hated feeling like I needed to rely on other people, and I wanted to be independent again, and I wanted to be living in the Jeep and traveling. But I was gonna have to make a sacrifice in order to do that. Because I wasn't making hardly enough money, I was gonna have to do DoorDash, and I couldn't think of a way to do DoorDash while I had Kai with me. So I had to send Kai back home with my parents, and initially I thought that things would be better for me. It would be one less thing to have to worry about. Kai had really bad anxiety on the road, and I wasn't able to buy him any medication to try to calm him down. And because I was so adamant that I needed to film all the time and then try to find work on top of that, I knew I wasn't going to be able to do that with Kai. And it sounded like a great idea at the time, but not having Kai with me just meant that everything I did, I was completely alone. It was hard enough not having people around me all the time, or even living somewhere where I could go out and meet friends, because I was always on the road. But then losing my dog, I didn't have anything. I would drive to campsites in amazing places I used to dream about going to, and I would sit there and I wouldn't have anything to do. I couldn't walk my dog. We couldn't, there was nothing to do. And it started really getting lonely. This was around the time that Sean and I started traveling together a lot more, and I honestly think that I was a little bit of a burden for Sean, but he was nice enough to let me stick around. And even though I really enjoyed my own personal space, it was nice to finally be around people, to be able to talk about things. But I don't know if Sean noticed this, but I was just thinking about this recently. When me and Sean would usually travel together, we would hardly ever just talk about our life experiences living in Jeeps. We were two people that at the time were the only people that I know of who were vlogging living in older Jeeps. And instead of spending our time talking about how amazing it was, all these places we traveled, all these amazing things we've done, we spent our whole time together planning out how to grow our channels, because our lives revolved around it. We were traveling the world, we were living people's dreams, we were doing things that some people probably will never get to do in their life, and we were more focused on what were we going to title the next video we were going to make, where's the best place to go where we can get good content, and everything we did, every decision we made seemed like it revolved around the YouTube channel. And I'm not sure how Sean sees it. I know I kind of was speaking for him there, and maybe he has a different perspective on it, but I know for me at least, definitely, it seemed like every decision I made on the road trip was to try to make a better video. Instead of just doing things because I wanted to do it and enjoying it and simultaneously vlogging about it, I was hopelessly searching for anything and everything that would make a good title for a video, that would maybe guarantee that I was going to get a couple more subscribers, or maybe finally another supporter, because after I reached my 1,000 subscriber limit, I just flatlined. My channel went from growing, peaking even, to just steady growing, up and down. I wasn't sure what I was doing wrong. I wasn't sure what I needed to change, if it was something that about me, if it was my camera quality, what was I doing wrong that I was not growing at all. I recently reached 2,000 subscribers on my channel, and I felt nothing, because the subscriber count was just, it hasn't really affected anything. I still only get about 200 views per video, on the off chance that I make a video that is very interesting to a lot of people. Earlier, when I was thinking about how I was going to come out and film this, I was thinking about the fact that I'm probably not going to get maybe more than 300 views on this video, and if people aren't viewing my videos, then why even bother filming it? Not long after coming back to my family's house, Jeep reached out and he asked if I wanted to do a video with him, go out to a cool like cabin place that he had found, an Airbnb, and I told him that I would love to, but I didn't really have any money, so I wasn't going to be able to drive. He was nice enough to pick me up and told me he would cover all the expenses. While I was riding with him, we talked about life and stuff, and he pointed out to me that he doesn't make his videos because he's trying to gain anything on it. He just makes his videos because he loves making videos. And I pointed out to him that my perspective on the channel changed when I had to start relying on the channel for money. Whether or not my video was successful started to determine whether or not I would eat food that day, or have enough money to pay for the gas, or just surviving in general was determined on whether or not my channel was successfully growing and getting enough views. And I started to panic when I saw my view count going down, because less views meant less people watching ads, which would mean that I wasn't going to get as big a paycheck from YouTube, even if that paycheck was only going to be $100 for a whole month's worth of work. Another thing that really bothered me on the trip was just people voicing their opinions on something that they didn't seem to really understand, or even didn't really seem to care how it affected the person they were telling it to. I have very tough skin, and it's usually hard to get under that skin, but when you have a vlog, you put your whole self out there. Your success and failure is strictly dependent on yourself. You're putting your whole self-worth out into the world, and then when people talk about whatever, say things that they wouldn't usually say to somebody, it eventually does start to wear on you. For better or for worse, it does start to affect you. So when people would say things on my channel, especially when they were very personal things, it would start to bother me. And I'm not very good at being passive about things. I'm very defensive, especially when they're about somebody else who I care about and not directly at me. I also have way too much fun. Sometimes we'll troll people in the comments. Even for a while, actually, my brother is really good at trolling people, and so I actually had him sign into my account and had him comment some things on people's negative comments. When I started this road trip, I set a lot of goals for myself, and how I envisioned the past year to go was nothing in comparison with how it actually went. When I started the road trip, I was in decent shape, but I wanted to be healthier. I wanted to start eating healthier. I wanted to have healthier habits. I thought that even though I had watched pretty much every single video that was talking about how van life isn't what you see, I still had an unrealistic expectation of what I'd be doing. When I imagined myself being in this position, I expected myself to be out in a beautiful forest, you know, birds chirping, beautiful weather, and, you know, making a fruit salad or something, or just, you know, drinking nectar, or I don't even know what I was expecting. And you see these van life channels where they cook a meal and it just looks so amazing, but, you know, and they tell you that that's not real, that that's just, you know, to create the content, but you don't really realize that until you're actually in that position. You make an amazing meal and it looks great in the picture, but you spent so much time, you know, filming that process that by the time you go to eat it, it's actually cold. Or if it was supposed to be cold, it's room temperature now. And then even if, you know, you did a good job and you enjoy your meal, they don't show you doing the dishes afterward. And if they do, they show you a 10-second clip for something that probably takes an hour. You know, you don't see your fingers freezing off while you're trying to clean up the dishes so you can hand it to town just so you can get a cup of coffee because you ran out of coffee, and now it's already the middle of the day because you spent so much time cooking, cleaning, and getting coffee in the middle of the day is out the window at this point. It was also really difficult going out into forests and just enjoying the nature when there was nobody there to enjoy it with, especially after I got rid of Kai. I would go out to the middle of the forest thinking I was going to have an amazing camping trip, and suddenly realizing that what makes most camping trips so great is being able to spend time with another person and being able to share that experience with other people. Probably one of the highlights of my trip to this time was when I finally was able to do a group meetup. Larry Stockman came, he brought some of his friends. Roy and Carol, I ran into them and they were able to come along. That was also the first time I met Jeep, or Jeep Rome as he's known on YouTube. And my dad came up there and we just all hung out and just enjoyed the nature. And that was probably the best thing that I did the whole time I was living on the road, because I was finally able to be with people who had a similar interest with me and spend time and actually have people to talk to. Sitting around a campfire isn't fun because fire's fun, even though I'm kind of a pyromaniac. It's fun when you have another person who's sitting there next to you that you can talk to and, you know, tell stories, talk about life experiences. I had somebody who suggested the movie, or the book even, Into the Wild, and I probably watched that movie 3 times. I have the book, I haven't finished it yet. One of the last things he says in that movie is happiness is only real when shared. I found that quote very interesting because I had been experiencing that in my personal life. Just not being able to share happiness with somebody, it means nothing. Maybe there's people who enjoy their own company enough that they can get away with it, but and I do enjoy my own company quite often, but doing it for so long, it starts to get boring. And then you go out into the middle of nowhere where you have no reception and you can't even text people. Or when I was making the vlogs, there was a lot of stuff that happened behind the scenes that I never put in this video at all. It's kind of amusing even to look at some of the videos that happened after some really interesting stuff that I'd never put in the video because I either felt it wasn't going to be interesting or just didn't see the point in bringing in negativity. On my channel, for the most part, I try to be extremely positive. When you have stuff happening in your life that's wearing you down and you're trying to come off as this really enthusiastic person, it just doesn't really work. When you see somebody filming a video, when you see somebody on, you know, YouTube or even sometimes on TV, you get an unrealistic expectation of who that person is. You guys don't see, you know, everything that goes out through my life. Your guys' opinion on who I am is solely based off of, you know, the videos that I make. If you guys don't see, you know, everything that goes out through my life, your guys' opinion on who I am is solely based off of, you know, the videos that I make. If you guys don't see, you know, everything that goes out through my life, your guys' opinion on who I am is solely based off of, the videos you see. And this is only like a small factor of my life. It's only a small factor of who I am. This vlog is not everything that's happened to me this past year. It's only what I've been willing to share with you guys. And if you've only seen half the videos, you only know so much at that point, maybe 10% of my life, and only on the videos. I've been lucky enough to actually meet a lot of my supporters in person, and only they can really judge whether or not my personality in the videos is a good representation to how I act in real life. But one big extreme that I have on here is I'm able to edit out like mishaps, or if I say something and didn't mean to say it or whatever. I'm actually really socially awkward in real life. I don't do good talking to people. I do good talking to cameras though. There was a lot of crazy stuff that happened this past year that it's so weird to look at now. When I was in Midland, I was doing DoorDash. I had just started doing DoorDash, and I went to go pick up an order, and I was standing there waiting for the order, and this guy just came up and just started wailing at me, like just straight up assaulted me, punched me in the face. And it kind of took me a second because I was in shock, but by the time, you know, like I realized what was going on, I was just ready to defend myself. A manager stepped in about the time this happened. I think she was on break actually, and I sat down because I had worked at Chick-fil-A for years and I know the procedure, and I was just waiting for somebody of management to come talk to me, you know, get my information, ask if I wanted to call the police, something, and nobody said anything. They asked if I wanted some ice, and then they asked me if I was still going to deliver the order. And I was like, what the heck? I ended up just delivering the food. I contacted the Chick-fil-A later, and I told them that I had just had my wisdom teeth removed just a few months prior to that, and I had major surgery on them. I actually had, they claimed, some of the deepest wisdom teeth. The x-ray showed it actually went into my jaw, so I was still healing from that. And then I got punched in the face, and my jaw had a really sharp pain in it afterward. And I told them I would like to get checked out. I couldn't afford to go to the doctor. And I actually argued with this Chick-fil-A for months on end, and I never got anything out of it. I just wanted them to pay for the hospital bill so I could go get checked out, and I never got to get checked out. I only recently started going to the chiropractor, getting my jaw realigned, and it's been helping a lot. I've been dealing with a lot of headaches and stuff since then, and I still haven't got any reimbursement from Chick-fil-A. So yeah, that's a big, definitely am not a fan of them anymore, that's for sure. When I was in Colorado Springs, actually, I decided to go to a parking lot because I couldn't really find a place to camp, and it's such a big city. I figured a 24/7 gas station was going to be the best place. I'd been staying at this gas station actually for a few days now, to the point that the lady who worked the night shift knew who I was. I was staying up, I was trying to edit videos and stuff, and I was in the back of my Jeep. I was just sitting there, and I had my headphones on. I was editing a video, and I just started hearing screaming and shouting. And I was kind of zoned, focused on my thing, and so it was weird. And I took my headphone off, and I was listening, and I just heard a girl screaming, "No, stop!" And it took me a second to realize what was going on. At this point, I started panicking. I wasn't sure what to do in this scenario, and I started looking for a weapon. Now, I usually leave my gun in a close to access place, but at this time I actually had just put it away in a case, and I didn't know where my knife was. I started reaching around. I think I had just found my knife, and all this probably happened in a matter of seconds, since I was in shock at this point. I grabbed my knife, I swung the door open, I jumped out just in time to see this guy on top of a girl in the backseat of a car. Thankfully, there was other people there who intervened, pulled the guy off of her. Some of the girls helped the girl go inside, and they were about to beat the crap out of this guy. But I guess he had like this little like pouch of literal crap like hanging, I don't even know what it is, but like a waist patch. Okay, what's your name actually? Eileen? Noah. These two really cool guys really helped out with a really sucky situation, but
yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Hang in there, man. Support this guy, dude.
I love the Subaru, by the way.
Dude, I love your Jeep, man.
Thank you. You have a good day. At night, after we talked to the police and everything, I didn't feel like sleeping. I ended up driving to Cairo's coffee shop. Figured they wouldn't mind too much if I stayed there one night. It was like 4 o'clock in the morning. I wasn't sure if I was even gonna sleep, but I figured I really needed to get some sleep. I ended up sleeping for a couple hours, made a video the next day, just went about my day, and that was just a crazy experience that I hope I never have to experience again. A lot of this time, you see only what I allow you to see, and there's so much stuff that happens behind the scenes that I just don't talk about. There's a few other things that happened that was weird. Don't really want to talk about those things. When I left this trip, I had a lot of built up problems. I had been going to therapy. I had been dealing with anxiety, depression. I was diagnosed with like all sorts of crap. And I just needed to try to come up with a way to get rid of it all. And I even told my therapist that I would be doing this, and it was so bad to the point that she was all in on me taking this trip. When I left on this trip, I thought that it was going to be the solution to getting rid of all of my problems, even though I had heard people say that a lot of people go into this life thinking that their problems, it'll take care of their problems. And all it really does is your problems go with you no matter where you go, no matter what you do. And I started to learn that as I went on with this journey, that even though I was living my dream, that my problems were still there and I was still going to have to deal with them. But I definitely think that this journey and this whole past year of my life helped me to deal with those problems. It took a while. I did have a lot of rough spots. Looking back recently, just on how much has changed in the past year, I've met so many amazing people. I've received an amazing amount of support. When I started this journey, I expected to receive a lot of supporters supporting small amounts of money. Like, I expected to have like 100 Patreon supporters all pitching in a little bit of side money, maybe $3 a month to keep me going on the road. But instead, I had about 10 Patreon supporters at a time, but people that have been supporting me for over a year, supporting more money than I even put in as an option. Not to mention like the hundreds of dollars I have received from people who were so generous in helping me with this journey and help keeping me on the road for as long as possible. And they are the only reason I was able to even do this for a year. If you're a Patreon supporter and you don't keep up with the Patreon, I posted a topic very recently that I would really appreciate if you go and read. This whole experience has been an incredible life changer for me. I've definitely grown a lot, and now that I feel like I'm finally in a place, I actually got to a place where I was comfortable coming back to Longview, and that was a huge step for me. If you saw my video about why I had no plans on coming back to Longview, I still do deal with a lot of those problems, and I actually received a lot of very negative comments. I still receive a lot of very negative comments of people saying things that if they said it to my face, I'd probably knock them out. More proof that people comment things when they really don't know what's going on, since I have been going to a professional for years who know a lot more about the story than anyone else, and it was not taken lightly. But to finally be in a place where I felt comfortable coming back to Longview, I still work through a lot of it. Going out in public half the time, even coming here, is a big deal for me, and it's hard for me to really stay focused. I'm constantly on edge, especially with how many hate comments I've received. I'm always going places with the assumption that I might need to defend myself in case somebody gets bright ideas or tries to be a hero. I'm a lot healthier now. I'm making a lot of healthy decisions. I've lost so much weight since I stopped the road trip. I'm trying to get healthier eating habits. I'm trying to get into a healthier routine. I've been working out more, and just overall just been a lot better. Would I live in the Jeep again? Absolutely. In fact, I don't plan on stopping anytime soon. I fully intend soon, hopefully within the next year, maybe a few years from now, whenever it feels like it's going to be possible again, I fully intend to go back to living in the Jeep full time. But stuff is going to have to change. Since I've done it for a year, I think I have a much better expectation as to what works and what doesn't work. I do not want to start this trip again, but until I know that I'm going to be able to make enough money while vlogging, while living in the Jeep, or somehow have a remote job that will allow me to achieve income while I'm making videos. I want to go back to enjoying making videos, enjoying the process, and just doing it for the fun of it. And I definitely don't want to start this trip again without my dog. So I'm gonna be restarting. I'm gonna have a new fresh start. I'm gonna start uploading weekly. I don't want to burn myself out again. I want to pace myself, take it slow, but I fully intend getting back on the road. I'm probably gonna remember a lot of stuff I wanted to say in this video later and regret it, but I've been planning on making this video ever since I was in Georgia. I've just waited way too long, and I finally felt like I just needed to stop thinking about it and just come here and just talk about it. So gonna get back to vlogging again, and hopefully things are gonna change really soon. Bonita needs a lot of work still. I'm still working a lot of kinks, but we're planning a trip to Moab the week of my birthday. If you guys would like to send me something for my birthday, I don't need anything, but I do love doing unboxing videos or a mail time video. So if you want to send me like a card or something, it doesn't even have to be an item. Just send me a card, something cool. Maybe send a picture of your Jeep or something, or your rig, whatever. It doesn't have to be a Jeep. I mean, it could be a Subaru WRX. Those are awesome. Or any other car. Or just write something cool. Just help me out. Send me some cool stuff. Maybe I can do a mail time. Maybe we can do a Q&A. I have an address below. If you send them there, the mail will be forwarded to me, and we can do something cool. I definitely feel like I lost a lot of my community as time went on through the channel, and I would like to start a new community, start a new chapter on this channel. You changed my whole how I do this, so that'll be all. I'm gonna go back to take Kai on a walk. He definitely wants to go on a walk. He's going crazy over here. He's freaking out. What's your problem? What's your problem? Kinky puppy? Calm down. Don't pee on every single tree, dude. I don't know whose dog this is. He's a very hyper puppy. It's kind of a pain in the butt. Kai, I shouldn't have listened to the vet. They didn't know what they were talking about. You should have been neutered a lot sooner.